the Turo people are actual people.
Yeah, no, we are.
Like,
we're real people.
Little did you know.
We're real
they're
people.
Actually like a human being behind that
Yeah.
phone. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Fleet Brothers podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. Lincoln used to be my power host success manager, and we just met because there was a Turo event going on in Denver, and you came all the way from Phoenix?
I would say the second headquarters, right? So it's the second biggest office. Our headquarters is San Francisco.
What's the biggest office?
San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah, San Fran is like where the executives are working, where marketing is,
Cool.
a lot of engineers, product people. And then Phoenix would be a lot of, claims associates, customer support.
Yep.
And then, of course, us, the host success team. And then, of course, we have a couple of people in, like, Canada. And
So you're the host success team.
Yeah.
Everybody hears about executive support.
Okay, yeah.
What even is that?
Executive support.
Is that actually a separate team, or do they just say that?
No, that is a separate team. They work in our office. So they're in the Phoenix office. Again, the executive support is going to be catered to power hosts. So it's catered to power hosts, executive claims, executive support. The VIP teams are associated with power hosts, and they work out of the Phoenix office with us.
And how long have you been at Turo?
I've been with Turo for a year.
I would assume your role is a bit higher up than
like an
most?
onboarding specialist, really.
Okay.
Right? So like we have, ever since the beginning of last year, anybody who is onboarding onto Turo, I'm sure anybody who's watching, if they've started on Turo within the last year, they went through an orientation. So they went through either a one-on-one orientation with somebody. Really? Yeah, so right when they start, we started doing this where everybody's going to get an orientation.
What's the agenda of that orientation?
You download the Turo app, you go to list your car before the vehicle can actually be published. You have to go through, at first it was a call, so it was a one-on-one call, 15 minutes, just setting the expectation, like giving people like, you don't want to cancel your first trip, you're going to get sent all the way down into the search results. You want to make sure that you're not offering delivery to any location. So those are the expectations we were setting to people because, even me when I first started, like I threw my car on Turo before I even started working just to kind of get a feel for it. And I'm in Phoenix, and the first trip request I got was for me to drop off the car in Las Vegas. I said I would do any delivery to anyone. So we were setting that kind of expectation, and then I got hired on to work with PowerHost. So we have the PowerHost team. So the host success management team is going to work with PowerHost, and then we have the other side who's onboarding new hosts. And then now we've transitioned to a webinar. So some of the people who are watching probably went through a webinar experience where they watch a video, it gives them all the tools so they can actually be successful, at least as a new host on Turo. And then, of course, you find your way and, you continue to make money, and then you become a PowerHost at some point, right? That's the idea.
And I think that is incredibly helpful for somebody that just started. Because, like, for me, I jumped into it just like all guns ablaze and see what would happen, and had no
but look
guidance.
at where you're at
Actually,
now. Look at where you're at now. Exactly.
Yeah. So now we're here. But like, I had at least DJ, who he's another host in Denver, and you just so happen to be his success manager as well. And so he was like, I got connected with him through my previous job because a guy named Pete had his connection. It was like, I got somebody doing Turo, and so DJ like helped me through everything.
No, that's awesome.
If I didn't have that, I don't know if I would have started. I might not have even put my first car on.
That's another thing that we see, actually, like that I've seen, right? I don't even know if the company keeps the data on this, but I've noticed that a lot of the power hosts who I manage or who I work with now, they all started similarly. A lot of the times I'm working with people that are somewhat tenured. There are definitely a handful of people who just started, became power hosts quick. I would say you, right? You start quickly, you become a power host quickly. But a lot of the people started like similar to you. Yeah, you have a friend, they tell you, you do it. And usually when a friend recommends you, it's because they're doing well themselves. So they want to see you do well too. So that's a big thing about like the community as well. Like I usually don't see hosts who want to step on other people's toes. Of course, there's always a bad actor out there, right? But like you don't see it often, right? So that's why like the whole co-hosting thing and all that just starts to evolve. That's the big thing about Turo, I guess, is the way the community works.
100%. So with DJ, I was at first looking at like the cheapest cars I could get. I'm going to get something really inexpensive and just like dip my toes into the water. And DJ's over there being like, dude, I just got a Defender.
Yeah, I just got a brand new Defender. I'm going to throw it on there.
And so he's like, you shouldn't be cheaping out. You should be like getting a car that's actually going to do well. Otherwise,
or something that you would drive yourself. Something you would drive yourself and that you're not worried that's going to break. Again, a brand new Defender, right? It's going to have warranty. It's going to have this. It's going to have that.
We ended up like, obviously, which you've seen my profile, we added every car in any car
that you could get. Yeah.
And so we dealt with a lot of those headaches.
What I tell everybody, right? There's multiple ways that you can do this. I have a host out in Phoenix who they run cars for 3 to 6 months. So like 3 months, they have a car that they bought at auction, whether it's like a Ford Focus, right? 2013, right about on the cutoff. The car's in great condition. They'll run it for 3 months. They know that there's going to be an issue coming up, sell it off.
No way.
Yeah, so they're flipping cars, I mean, I think the longest car they have running on there is like 9 months right now.
It's cool seeing all the different strategies. I know when I first started and we were trying to grow and grow and grow as fast as possible, we were kind of comparing our strategy to like Aubrey's strategy, Aubrey Janik. She's over there just buying like cheap cars and throwing them up there. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with that because in my experience, maybe you have a different experience, but from what I've seen, cheap cars get cheap renters and cheap renters suck.
I can see that side. I would say more like it all comes down to like how much somebody's looking to spend on a rental, on a booking. It all comes down to how much somebody's going to spend. I think that with the risk model, risk assessment, when we're trying to make sure that we vet the guests before they come in, just like we're vetting hosts, right? We're going to make sure to vet everybody that comes in. We don't want people having a poor experience based on that. But I get where you're coming from. I do. And I don't even know what to say to that. But more so the aspect that we have a system in place to make it so that if you don't report that crappy guest or that shitty guest, the next person that gets that guest is going to have a similar experience, right? And if that person doesn't report that guest, they're going to have another shitty experience. So I think that's another thing is like hammering down on like the whole entire quality aspect of it. Like if you get a guest that smokes in your car, but you can't find anything, still report it. Report that the car smells, but don't charge for a smoking violation because you can't get it, right? You haven't found anything in the car. You have no proof. But like report that, because then the next time the person goes into a car and let's say that the next person reports the same thing, we can keep track of that. And then we can be like, okay, well, this person's had 4 reports, but there's no proof on any of them. At that point, it's like, right, this person's definitely smoking in the car. Those are the things that like I definitely noticed. The whole claims thing, like you have a guest who scratches the hell out of your car and then they ghost you, right? They don't say anything. If the messages are in the Turo app, they ghosted you. Let's say that the claim doesn't go through because there was no photos, no coverage, no nothing. We have it documented still. Like it's all going to be documented that you called support and support had to assist you and teach you how to do X, Y, and Z. If we can actually like keep up with all that, the chances of somebody getting that bad trip are significantly less. Now, people get through systems in place. People get through the ATS when you're sending out resumes.
Something like that.
Like, yeah,
right,
you send out resumes and they read through everything. Like, let's say you have terrible experience, but you're great at writing a resume and you can use all the keywords, you're going to get through the system. So I think similar to like you run a background check on somebody, they might be cleanest background check ever, but their intention is already something else prior to that.
So is there something that you're saying you guys keep documentation of like, okay, I reported them smoking, but I couldn't get that, like actually make it something where I collect a fee because I don't have proper evidence. When they're booking a car with like the next guest and the next host and the next host, do you guys report that to them or?
No. So that wouldn't be the case, right? Because since there's no proof, it's not like I'm going to sit here and be like, hey, Aaron, this guest that you're about to get, they smoked. Like, no. That wouldn't be the case, but it would be more so the guest that you just got, not a smoking violation, right? But they got, let's say the host reported a smoking violation, didn't get accepted for it. And then they say like host report, false report on a smoking claim. At that point, let's say you then get the same situation and then you report it. That's where that executive support agent, right? They could look back and say like, oh, this happened last
Can they just make the call and just be like, hey, this happened with a few people in the past. I'm just going to honor it this time.
What do you mean?
Can they use the track history of
a
guest
don't know.
that hasn't properly been?
That I don't know. But what I do know is like we can keep track of that, right? And as the company, like we don't want those bad trips, either for the 100%. Host or the guest. We don't want a poor host on the platform to like expect to get a nice car and then the car's not there or the delivery's super late. As a power host, you're getting a call from executive support. They're saying like, hey, this other host bailed on a trip. I see that your car's available. Can you go? So I don't think that the executive support agent would tell you like, hey, we see this happen a couple times and, we're going to accept it. I think it would be more of a situation like you're talking to the executive support agent and you explain to them like, hey, it smells like smoke. But the other side of that, 99% of the time, if somebody's smoking in your car, if you use the little air pressure thing that you can put on the side of the seat that goes right inside, like as long as you blow that into there, you go under the seat. If there was weed in the car, it's going to fly to the back. If there's like tobacco in the car, it's going to fly to the back. And the other thing too, like if somebody's actually smoking in the car, like ash always flies around, especially in the summer. Like right now you have AC on, like there's going to be ash everywhere.
Let me know if this applies as evidence because I want to catch somebody this way.
Okay.
Just because it would be satisfying.
Okay.
So there's a few ways that I would want to do it. So The first way would be
If they admit to it and you don't have evidence, like, that counts.
because what I was kind of thinking was you trick them into saying something about smoking in the car, where you say, hey, the car kind of smells like smoke. Can you just let me know what type of marijuana you use so that I can properly like clean the car?
Yeah, no,
and then they come back and they say, oh, it was this.
That's going to be a situation where, like, the person says, oh, no, I smoked outside the car and I left the windows open and I'm right there. I've seen situations where if the guest responds and says, like, oh, it was my aunt, it was my daughter, it was somebody that was driving with me and, you know, they drove the car. The guest just told you somebody else drove the car without being approved. And, like, if you only find ash, like, sometimes people will send a picture in of ash and it just looks like dirt. Take a picture of the ash, scrape the ash, and then take a picture of your finger.
So you can tell that
tell that it's ash. Because then it could just be like, for any host who's here and they're not a power host and they don't have the executive support thing, they have outside agents. So then that outside agent picks up the phone, goes, done. It really does definitely come down to those photos.
What I've kind of noticed from all of the reports that I've made, it is literally like you're building a court case against the person.
That's
like
what you're building
feels
an
like.
investigation.
Every single shred of evidence they can possibly get against somebody that is like completely necessary. You need to have every single thing possible.
Yeah, you definitely need to have proof.
And that's why our pre-trip photos, we literally go around the entire car, just snap, 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 cup holders, boom, boom, boom. Like, people forget certain parts of the car because then, like, if you don't have a picture of inside the cup holder where the ash was, then that's something that, probably depending on your Turo agent, they'd be like, hey, I don't have a pre-trip photo.
No, so in that situation, like, say there was ash in the cup holder, you swipe your finger and then do that, right? Even then, because I think that the other side of that would be your car already smells like smoke. And then the guest, as soon as they get there, they already report it to Turo. And they're like, hey, the car I'm in smells like smoke.
So I guess that's a big tip for guests. If the car smells like smoke, report it instantly.
If the car smells like smoke, don't take it. That's definitely the tip for guests. I mean, I think that if you're unsatisfied with the car, if you're calling in for support, you're most likely going to get a vehicle swap. We're most likely going to take it and we're going to find you a different vehicle. If there's no vehicles available, you're going to get reimbursed. But if you're not satisfied with the car, then we wouldn't want you driving it.
And when you swap a vehicle, do you hook it up for the guest? As in, like, hey, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Here's a car at a discounted rate, or how does that work?
I think it's a case-by-case scenario. At that point, it's going to be like, say you booked a Huracan and there's only one Huracan in your area. Yeah, you might get a significant amount of a credit back, and then you're getting a cheaper car at that point, or vice versa. You book a super inexpensive car, and now there's only expensive cars available. Technically, it would be a hookup because we're then applying a credit for it, but realistically, we're always going to try staying in the same parameters, right?
Sure.
But if we can't, we're going to make it right for the host.
So best case scenario, if you're a guest, book a really cheap car. Hopefully it smells like smoke.
and then get sent into a Huracan.
And then you get sent into something else that's going to be better.
Right.
Like,
maybe. But I know that we're always going to try and make it right, whether it's the host or the guest. I think that with the whole smoking thing, that's probably the most conversation that I have with hosts, and like trying to explain to them, like 98% of the time you will find evidence. And then there's definitely been situations where like a guest doesn't smoke and there's a bad host and he's like, smoking fee, cleaning fee, late return, the whole 9 yards. And it's like, if you're getting a smoking fee, you're not going to get a cleaning fee. Don't get this the wrong way, but like some people think that they're entitled to having the car come back in pristine condition, cleaner than they sent it out. And you run into the issue all the time where it's like, I don't know, there's like a water bottle in the back seat and a host is like, my car is so dirty. It's like the whole quality thing. If we can keep track of all that and we can keep notes of all that, it'll just make the experience 10 times better for everybody else that's on the platform. That's a situation where you're able to weed out bad hosts and bad guests.
Yeah. We're talking a bit earlier, and you have like genuine passion for your job, it seems. You genuinely like enjoy talking like numbers and like...
I love it. Like, I like talking numbers. I like building people up. I like helping people achieve an area of success. When you can see that somebody's motivated, right? And you can see that somebody wants to achieve more. I have the opportunity to be able to like give them at least some insight that they might not have. I take a lot of pride in it because I love it. I think that with this, I'm not gaining anything other than the fulfillment of seeing somebody else do better.
What's like your day-to-day role? Because I know it's like a new role that was just introduced by Turo, probably like when you started.
Power Host team has been around. I think that we've now finally like laid out the groundwork. We built out the team to a point where we have the support. When I first started, I told you I had close to 700 hosts that I was working with, right? So it was hard to keep that communication. And of course, there might have been hosts out there who, got angry at the fact that, oh, I'm a power host and I haven't been able to talk to my host success manager, but it's hard to deal with 700 people. And then at that point too, it was the old qualifications. So it was every 3 months there was a churn. Whereas now you have that $36,000 in a year on a rolling 365 days. So when July comes around right now, if you haven't made $36,000 from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th of 2023, you're not going to be a power host anymore.
So people are about to get it booted off.
Significantly less than before. The quarterly was an issue because, people here in Denver, they would lose power host status every April and May.
Gotcha.
Because it was so slow.
So it's more beneficial to the host to be a full year because then it's representative of the entire year rather than the low season in Denver is low.
I see it too. I see it with a lot of my hosts. And I think that this change is going to make it so that you have that ongoing support before the slow season even happens. And I think that's the other thing too, is there's always going to be new hosts, but there's always going to be old hosts too.
That makes sense. I feel like, because that's one concern that I feel like a lot of people have is everybody's starting to hear about Turo. Like they're making a huge marketing push now. That provides a bit of a concern for the experienced hosts, the power hosts who, make it more of an exclusive thing. But I guess getting to the point that you're a power host, that is the exclusivity.
The exclusivity is also too, like having a host success manager, you have that added data, you have the host insights tool for power hosts. With that, you get that added benefit, you get the added support from the claims team, VIP claims, VIP support, windshield, tire, you get those extra credits there. But the biggest thing that I think is like staying a power host throughout the whole entire year, even in like markets like Denver where there's so many hosts. And the one thing that you said, right? So many people are hearing about Turo, they're starting to come on. You know what it's like to deal with 50 cars. So you know what it's the work that it takes to deal with 50 cars, and then the work that it takes to find somebody reliable that's going to help you with your fleet, somebody that's going to actually clean the cars on time, deliver them on time. That's the hardest part. So a lot of the times people will hop on and they think it's like, oh, this is clean, this is so easy because you have 2 extra cars and your availability isn't 24/7 like a lot of these power hosts, right? Your availability is the 1 day advance notice. So you give that 24 hours. There's a lot of people here that are doing 1 hour advance notice. They're doing Turo Go where it's 5 minutes before. So the availability thing is huge, but then the work is a lot.
And I think especially for somebody just like jumping in and just not knowing exactly what to expect, that provides a lot of headache.
And that's why we do the whole onboarding thing. So that's why we do the webinar. But the other side of it, you said a lot of people are finding out about this and they're starting to host. And then also with the launch of Australia, France. Now it's the opening the door to international travel. We've always allowed international drivers onto the platform. If somebody's coming internationally, they know about Turo. We were in Germany years ago. So I can assure you there's plenty of people that would come from Germany and still do and use our platform. Of course, France is a travel hub of the world. Everybody goes to France. I have a significant amount of family who ended up going to France over the summer, and we acquired WeCar in France. So they still haven't rebranded, but I was able to tell them like, hey, go find out the experience that you would have had here in the US. Go to WeCar. Go have a trip on WeCar, and they did. So with that recognition, you then start receiving the international guests. That's the big thing. Like the guest acquiring is a huge amount right now.
I still will have conversations with people and they say, oh, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a Turo host. And they're like, what is that?
What is that? Airbnb for cars. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And then, natural response is Airbnb for cars. But it's crazy the amount of people that still don't know about it. But the people that do know about it, they love it. Like everybody loves the experience because you're not waiting in a line at some miserable rental car company.
Right.
Yeah.
You get the car that you want. And then also too, you have a different travel experience. You make a new connection. You have a new friend, let's say in that area. And then on top of it, you pay significantly less. In my opinion, even with the young driver fee, I'm still paying significantly less than I would have paid at Enterprise. And again, if we're comparing apples to apples, car to car, I'm paying significantly less than going to a regular traditional 100%. Agency. As soon as, the young driver fee's gone at 25, you're spending a significantly less amount of money. And then of course, if you book your trip significantly before, it's going to be cheaper. A last minute booking is going to be more expensive because there's more risk associated to it, similar to Airbnb.
So I want to get your opinion on something. So I'm trying to convince one of my clients to do this. I really want it to happen, but I want to get themed cars. I want to explore that a little bit more because, like I said, we saw the Jurassic Park car. That's like the one car that every single person at the event yesterday was probably aware that it was there, at least. And if you're aware that one single car is there in the parking lot at some massive Turo event that every single host is coming to, imagine what that does for the listing, like while you're just scrolling.
Right, just for the people, the hosts that are there, they're like, oh, what's the listing?
Yeah.
Right? They scan the QR code, they look at it, and it's like, holy crap, I can book this car. And like similar to the car, beginning of the year, we had the Addams Family car listed on Turo too for like $35 a day. There was a partnership with Wednesday, that new show on Netflix, but yeah, it was like $35 a day, and people could drive it. And similar to that, when Jurassic World came out, so not that car that you saw yesterday. I think theme cars are definitely an idea and a way to go.
Do you like have any metrics on that, or do you know anything about, do they actually get rented more? Or?
They definitely get more views, right? Because people want to look at it. But I think that as a catalog update comes through and, we start to advance, I think that at some point, someday, that'll be a section. So I think it creates attraction. You could even brand yourself. I think changing your vehicles to make it look like it's a new one on the platform, great. But a themed vehicle like the Jurassic Park one, like
that could do really well.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool to do like the ultimate tailgate experience in Denver. So you have a Denver Broncos car that has all the extras that you could imagine, like a grill, a cooler, chairs to sit in.
Colored with the Broncos colors,
wrapped with Broncos.
Yeah.
I think that would crush. And you could do one of those in every single city that has a sports team.
Exactly. You could do it, do one for the Pats, do one for the Broncos, do one for, the 49ers. Yeah.
Yeah, like imagine a Cowboys truck.
Like a huge Ram.
It would be ridiculous.
Yeah, no, like a dually, 2 wheels on the back. Yeah, huge.
So that's something that it's hard to convince a client to be a guinea pig
or a test subject.
Yeah. I've brought this up with a few people and they're like, that's cool, let me know when you do it with somebody else.
Or why not find a Broncos fanatic?
I'll find a Broncos player.
That would be smart. Or ask the team, send them an email, tell them, hey.
No, that'd be cool. There's a lot of avenues. You've kind of seen the business grow. When did you first get assigned to me?
You had gotten assigned to me right around November. I think we first talked December. That was probably the fastest growth. And then, of course, you partnered with Christian now. Now Christian's on that pedestal where it's like he's at the fastest growing cars.
It was insane because we just partnered up with Will.
Yeah.
The financial wolf. And he blasted us out one video.
Yeah.
And then we were telling you yesterday, but our calendars were just booked.
Yeah, there was no way to take care of it.
15-minute time slots for meetings that people wanted to... This was people that wanted to buy cars and put them on to rent out through us.
Now, my question for you is, do you think that maybe the problem with that was 15 minutes was too little?
No, our issue was we just we were not ready for the onslaught. 15 minutes. We had a buffer in between, but we literally... Chris was sitting on sales calls all day, every single day, just being this is what we do. We manage cars. We're trying to grow to 50 cars. We'll see if that ever happens. And then next thing you know, boom, we have 50 cars in Denver.
No, you definitely did.
Because you said you went on a vacation, you came back.
Yeah, I went to Brazil for 2 months, and halfway through, I started working again because I only got 4 weeks off. And I go onto my computer, and right before the new quarter happens, I'm because I see who's going to fall out of my name, right, and move up to the next tier. Because I only work with people up to 11 cars, right? Yep. And then I have plenty of hosts right now who are at 12, 13, even up to 20s, right? So then they move up to the next tier, and realistically it's somebody who works alongside me, and it's just a different way to manage a fleet, right? At that point, when you're managing 20, 30 cars, you have employees, you have a lot more expenses, you also have tax situations that you want to get through, and building an LLC, getting the right insurance, and of course modeling your claims correctly. So I looked and I'm dude, what? How did this even get here? And I expected that it was it was from whatever partnership you guys had with Will, but 50 cars is crazy.
That's the cool thing about it all, just building the system. So naturally, when we took on a bunch of cars, we just had to get systems down. That's all it is. It's it goes from some fun little thing where you're managing a car and you're having cool relationships, and
it's new people.
The amount of people that were coming into Denver, and I was just talking to them, giving them recommendations and meeting every single one of them.
And then you have people from back home, from where you're from, and they're oh, you're from there too. Yeah, and it becomes a different experience. Yeah,
you get a bunch of people renting out your cars, and then it becomes a business, and you're just fully building out a system,
and you're invested into it, and you take 18 hours a whole day, just kind of
oh, it was ridiculous,
trying to load everything up, and then also trying to manage deliveries and whatnot. And you've had your experience with it, trying to hire hire people and then it not working out, and the amount of people that deal with that. And I've seen situations where people will hire somebody to help them manage deliveries because they have their Airbnb business, or, you know, their actual 9 to 5 is requiring them to travel or go somewhere else. So they'll hire somebody and that person will tank that account, remove them from power host status. They're now at 85% 5-star review. You're not even all-star host at this point.
It's crazy because as people have seen the struggles on YouTube, we have had so many different employees and issues and like damages and all this stuff in such a short amount of time. Like, it was information overload.
And I also think it's because you had 50
yeah.
cars in such a short amount of time, because it's not to say it's inevitable, but it's inevitable that there might be a claim at some point. A theft, I don't want to say that happens to everybody because it doesn't, but it does happen. And depending on the market, you know, I know that certain markets have a higher theft rate. I think that if you're closer to the border, you might have a situation where the vehicle goes to Mexico and it's not supposed to. Even if you live down in San Diego, I could drive that car all the way up to Canada. I could drive to Toronto, and that's allowed, but I can't take it to Tijuana. So I think that with 50 cars, it becomes inevitable to deal with those things. So it's a learning curve.
We definitely got lucky with how few terrible things happened.
Yeah. No, you definitely, no, for sure.
I was going around and I was talking to people just yesterday at the event, and there were people giving me like absolute horror stories, and they had like 5 to 10 cars.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, I never experienced that.
Yeah.
But
it
I had
happens.
50 cars. And
Yeah.
then, it happens to people, and it's unfortunate, but it sounds like most of them just got taken care of.
You're always going to get taken care of as long as you have photos, or like I said, some message proof.
Yeah.
Photos is the biggest thing. Just like you said earlier, like you take all those pictures around your car all the time. You're detailed about it. There's no way that a situation isn't going to get taken care of for you. And the other thing too, just to like put it there, it's always timestamped. So whenever you take a photo, let's say you didn't upload it within that 24 hours, it's going to be timestamped from when you took that picture. So as long as you're uploading the photos, as long as you have the photos and you have the timestamp that's correct, you're never going to get denied something.
So obviously we're at a bit of a turning point with the company, because so essentially we built up to 50 cars, and then we brought on Christian as a partner, and the cars are going over to his profile. He's crushing it managing those. He's like all 5 stars. It's ridiculous. And so I'm at a point where I'm trying to decide what the next move is for myself. So we have a few things in the work. There's the GPS that I told you about, which I would have never thought about unless we got a bunch of cars stolen.
I hear that.
You know,
I hear that. And there's some GPSs out there, but I think there's a big difference with yours too.
I think that's one way that I can fully jump into. The other thing that I'm probably going to be doing is coaching and consulting for other Turo hosts. Because like we said, like getting into it just off the bat and not having any experience, things are going to go wrong. So being able to give that guidance, I think that's a good way to kind of parlay what I've learned. And then the other thing that I'm thinking about is trying to find very good experienced hosts in different parts of the country, and with the audience that we're able to pool, be able to put on co-hosting cars with them and just bridge the gap and act as like the middle man between the two groups.
I think that's awesome. And I think another thing too is like, just like you said, when it's slow here, it's slow here. Yeah. So I think that if you have that network already, it's slow here and it's busy elsewhere, planning to ship the cars before.
Really?
Just planning to move the vehicles. If there's no bookings, blocking out the calendar, moving the vehicle, throwing it in that next market, and just seeing how it performs. I mean, I've seen it plenty of times where people will move their cars up to Denver for ski season. People will move their cars from Denver. I mean, I know I saw it happen during the Super Bowl. They took their cars from Denver and threw them in Phoenix. And then with the Super Bowl coming up in Vegas, I mean, this is a huge year for Vegas. We have Super Bowl next year. Before that, you have Formula One. So Formula One is like the most expensive sport to attend in the world. You then throw those vehicles in Vegas. So you end up being able to capitalize on that market.
I just can't even imagine the logistics behind that. In my opinion, it would probably be a logistical nightmare. Unless you had like one badass car.
If you're at that point of having 50 cars, I think that you're able, right? Or if you're at that point of having 30 cars, I think that you're able to maneuver it.
You can operate at scale.
There it is. Exactly. You can
important.
operate at scale. So having those connections to all those co-hosts, I think that even too, right, if you look at some hosts who have huge fleets, they have connections to transportation people, right? Because they have to buy cars in other states to get a significantly cheaper price. You make those connections with transport people. I mean, I ship my BMW from Massachusetts for $800, just finding the right people.
Okay.
Right. So, and again, like whenever you find, those companies that are going to ship your car and you call them online and then they assign you to somebody that's shipping your car, the person that's shipping your car is then going to call you. You then talk to that guy, make a friend out of it. That's the other thing about hosting too, is like the amount of connections that you can make. I mean, I connected with you through my Turo, and then I look at some other hosts, one of my really close friends, one of my peers too, he works with me. He has the most amazing connections for parking in Phoenix for himself, right? So this isn't like at scale, but like he's made the right connections to where like there's an apartment complex who has parking for their residents, but then they also have so much extra parking. He made friends with the front desk person like so well to a point where like he can just park his car at that apartment complex if needed, right? So then it's things that like those are the connections you want to make, like connections like Tim. I know that some people out here in Denver have like subscriptions for car washes, but it's like geolocation, so it's like has to be connected to your phone. Weird. And I talked to a couple of people who have that same situation, and that's what I mean. Connecting them to Tim helps Tim, also helps the host, being able to like have that membership without it being geolocation or being stuck to something.
It is cool. It feels like starting a business will get you to the point where you're connecting with like the whole community very quickly. Like, because that is a lot of what business is. You just have to build a network of people who can help out, you know? Like, I would have never gotten to the point where we're at right now if I didn't have like a community around me, like being able to hook it up.
Even at the beginning, I'm like, majority of hosts aren't trying to step on each other's toes, like at all. Like,
it's a great community.
Business is going to come to you if your listing's attractive, right? If you're doing something wrong, it's not going to come to you, right? If you have good reviews, the business is going to come. You're going to be up there in the search, right? So it really just comes down to like being nice to the people around you. You'll notice there's hosts who are like, hey, I can't drop off my car today. Can somebody help me out? And there's other hosts who, I'm sure if DJ ever asked you to drop off a car for him and you were free, I'm sure you'd
help
do
him
it.
out in a heartbeat.
There it is. So I think that that's another thing too, is like the hosting community should be, you know, I guess should be catering it like this. As a power host, right? You've seen the ups, the downs. You've made it through to the point where power hosts that are out there that are power hosts for 3-4 years, you've made it to a point where you've seen the highs, the lows, and you're able to make it through them. It's huge to make sure you have those connections and cut your costs in any way that you can.
If one host in Denver finds like the hookup at this place, they're probably going to share that, because the more people using like one system, I see a lot of people just like grouping up on certain things, you know, like, hey, I'm at the airport on these days. Does anybody need help with X, Y, and Z? Yeah, that's one thing that I would definitely encourage everybody to do, is connect with the people out there at the parking lot.
Yeah, be nice, have fun. You know, you're all doing the same thing. So I think even though some people are shyer than others, like it's very easy to spark up a conversation if you're doing the same exact thing.
And how much easier does it make your life if you can just have your car sitting at the parking lot? Imagine it comes back clean and the guest is like, hey, I returned it clean. Okay, cool. All you need is photos, but you're 30 minutes from the airport.
And then you have a friend who's at the airport right now.
You have a friend at the airport, so
no
boom,
brainer.
Hey, snap some photos for me. I've done that so many times.
Yeah, and then
you just get it right back.
That's completely allowed. It's like having a custodian, right? It's like having somebody already assigned. They send you the pictures, you upload them, and it's checked out.
Yep.
So yeah, the connections is huge, and it's hard to hire. So the more connections you have, and the more each host can help out another, the less you have to worry about hiring somebody to take care of it. And I've seen situations where it's like gigs. It's like $20, clean the car. Somebody cleans in 15 minutes.
Yeah. All right. So to close it out a little bit, I want to hear your number one thing that you would avoid on Turo. What is something that you would recommend to everyone to do? And then what is one thing that you recommend to everyone not to do?
This is so simple. And like the amount of people that I talk to that don't do this and realize that it hurts them, and it sounds so dumb. More than 10 pictures on each listing. Have 20 pictures on the listing. Don't take doubles, make it look nice. Like having a detailed listing is going to help you out way more than a lot. I've seen people who have 9 photos on their cars, and the week I tell them like, hey, you need to upload, they're like, I'm not getting bookings, it's so slow. And yeah, it is during slow season. That's when I get calls, right? That's when people call me and tell me that they're having a hard time. But the second they add 5 more pictures, they now have 14, because they're a power host and they have that host insights tool. Their page views jump significantly. So it's a detailed listing. Use ChatGPT for your, like, use it as an advantage. Tell ChatGPT like, hey, write out a description for this car that's 2 paragraphs long for me as a Turo host. Make sure that you have all the details on there, and it will boost you significantly.
One question with that first. So first with ChatGPT, because I literally write every single description with ChatGPT.
Okay, great.
Without fail.
Great.
I have a prompt that I use. This is like what I do for every single one.
Yeah.
One thing to be very careful of is make sure that ChatGPT is not just like saying something about the car,
right,
and it's not true.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if you just go on there and you say, hey, write a description for a 2018 Subaru Outback, right?
It could write a description for a limited Outback.
Yeah, it could just write anything at once. So double check that. There's somewhere on, what is it? I think Car Gurus. They have a really good like detailed outline of every single feature that a certain trim level of a car has.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, so if you go on there and you just look up the trim, just literally go select the best features that it lists, and then throw that into ChatGPT and say, write a description.
Highlight these features.
Yeah, 2 paragraphs, highlight this, and this, and then like write this at the bottom. Literally go on to, I would say my profiles, but go on to Christian's profiles and copy like our
his
format.
Descriptions or
it's
whatever
just,
it is.
It's just cake. Or honestly, whatever area you're in, go to the best host, copy their descriptions, and just have GPT make it your own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
so that's easy. And then the other thing that I'll ask, what are your opinions on, I know you said have more photos, but the quality of the photos, how much does that actually matter?
So I think quality of photos are going to matter to the guest that you're trying to tend. So the guest that's looking at it, quality of photos, I think matter. If I'm looking at a listing, I care about the quality. Of course, it doesn't need to be, because sometimes you even look at a picture that's too professional, and this is just opinion, right? You look at a picture that's too professional and then you show up to the car, you're unsatisfied because it's way too nice on the pictures, and then you show up. But again, your photos might be up to par to a point where it's like, no, they're highlighting the car. It looks great. These are all clean.
We have really good photos of like a Nissan Versa.
Why not? Why not though? So I think that if you have your listings looking great, it's about the person that you're tending to. The amount of photos is what's important. That having a detailed listing. So kind of like you look at like Instagram, right? If you're posting 3 times a day, you're posting the right content. Honestly, if you're posting 3 times a day and you're not getting shadow banned or reported, you're going to grow. Your profile will get followers. I mean, you look at these meme accounts on Instagram, that's how they blow up. It's because they post 3 times a day. They're invested into the platform. So if you have 20 photos on a vehicle, you're invested into the platform. If you have a nice description, you're invested into the platform. So I think that that's going to help you. And then what to avoid realistically? 1, book instantly. I know that everybody's going to like, oh, well, no, I can't vet somebody.
Avoid using book instantly?
No,
or
avoid not using it.
Not using it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who tell me it's like, oh, I can't see who's booking the car, or, you know, my friend had a trip on Book Instantly that turned out this way. The reality of it is, if you don't want a last minute trip, change your advance notice. Make your advance notice 12 hours or maybe even a day. If it's something where you're like, I don't want this last minute booking on Book Instantly, change your advance notice and then use Book Instantly. I mean, 80% of trips across the country are going to be booked on Book Instantly. It doesn't mean that people are specifically sorting for Book Instantly.
Does Turo adjust how high up your car will be in search if you're book instantly versus not book instantly?
Not necessarily. Like, not Turo. I think it would be the guest. So a lot of guests are going to shy away from waiting for an approval. Like me personally, I'll shy away from waiting for an approval just because I've booked an Airbnb before where I waited for an approval and then, it didn't happen. And then I had to spend way more money on another Airbnb at that point. So I think that Book Instantly is just going to help you because it guarantees a trip that's going to happen. And a lot of the times, whenever you hear somebody saying, well, this happened, it was last minute, I couldn't see it, or I can't vet the guest. Like I said, we have a system in place to be able to vet these people. Let's say you have a Rolls Royce, you have the guy with the perfect driving record, he has paint the picture that he's this great guest. It could really just be that he's not. He can get through any system because he has a perfect background check and he has a perfect everything. As long as you take those pictures, you're covered. So it's not using Book Instantly it will be in certain markets. Even if you go up north a little bit from here, that's going to be the make it or break it. And I think that even in certain markets that are a little bit more remote, like the last minute trips might be your cake, might be your bread and butter, and not necessarily just the last minute trips, but like the locals, right? I hear a lot of people where they're like, I don't want to do it for local people. Yeah. Enterprise is doing it. Like Hertz is doing it. So shoot yourself in the foot at that point. You know what I mean? I can understand people that don't want to do the 1-day trips, right? I would say avoid saying no to those, but offer a delivery discount. Majority of people are doing free delivery anyways, right? So offer a delivery discount for 4 days or longer. You only touch the car once.
Just off that, because I asked you about search results. Yeah. So I'm very curious. Is there actually a way to make your car go up in the search results, or is that just people saying things?
No, there is. It's the things I just told you. So it's going to be your availability if you're always available, right? So then you're able to capture that market. Price will be a main driver if somebody is sorting by price. Somebody sorts by price, yes, it will be a main driver. But if somebody sorts by day, and let's say you search area, availability of cars during this day and this day at this time and this time, the first 200 results, I mean, again, there's 4,000 vehicles here in Denver. I don't know, something like that, right? They might not all be running at once, right? But some might be snooze, some might be on a trip. But those first 200 cars that show up, there's going to be priority on invested listings. There's going to be priority on, reviews, right? Yeah. Commitment rate, right? We don't want to put the first 200 up there and somebody has like a 90% commitment rate.
Sure.
Where out of 9 trips or out of 10 trips, one of them is going to be completely declined or you're never going to show up. So I think ratings are going to be huge. Invested listings going to be huge. And then of course, if you're working with, I mean, I'm going to use a Model 3 as an example because I know that there's Model 3s everywhere right now. You might have to work around that. So like if you notice that you're in a situation where it's saturated, like use your extras use your mileage, right? Your distance included to an advantage. That's another thing. Like if you're offering more distance included than other people around you, you will show up higher, right? You're going to show up higher than somebody who's offering only 150 miles on the same exact car. Having unlimited distance, that's going to add a badge to your listing. So that's also going to boost you. But realistically, being more available than other people, yes. Having your ratings good. You might have a bunch of 5-star reviews, but then let's just say you have a bunch of trips that aren't rated at all. That hurts you. A tip for that is like scheduled message 2 hours after the trip is over. Hey, my business is, it's ran by reviews. So it'd be really important to me that if you left me a 5-star and if I did anything less than 5 stars, just put it in the comment section on how I can get better, right? Sound like a human, sound like you actually care about this. I'm saying to the guest, right? They will give you a 5-star review and then still tell you like, hey, you could do this, right? If you actually gave them that quality of service. So it's really going to be about quality. And then again, yes, if people are sorting by price, it's going to be based on price. So it's making sure that you also are delivering to places. Delivery is also just going to broaden your search. It'll make you more available to other people.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to ask for the rating.
Yeah.
Because the amount of trips, so I didn't ask for ratings for a bit, which was bad of me.
Wow.
I should not have done that. I wasn't asking for ratings, but the amount of trips that I missed out on a 5-star rating because of that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, because people are like,
and I think
people are traveling, they're rushing, they're not going to go and review, and they don't think anything of it.
I think people are more inclined to leave you a rating if they've had a bad experience.
Absolutely.
So,
and that hurts.
So if you're not asking for the good ratings from people that had a great experience with you, then the unfortunate few that had a bad experience, they're gonna
show
up,
you.
tenfold on your profile, and you're just gonna get absolutely.
And another thing is like if you're not using Instant Book and you're accepting every trip, there's no reason why you shouldn't be using it. But the other side of it is if you're not using Instant Book and let's say the 2 hours go by where you don't respond, that dings you as well. So you don't have a response rate at that point. Your response rate is actually lower. That's a big thing, right? Like I said, the quality thing is responding to people and then committing to the trip. A lot of people will accept a trip even without Instant Book. They'll respond to them and then they don't commit to it. That's going to drag you down.
No, this was great. Thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you for thanks for having me.
It's cool getting to actually
meet you in person. Drinks, but it definitely
after,
is.
You're just like a voice on the phone.
Yeah,
but
and a picture on LinkedIn.
the Turo people are actual people.
Yeah, no, we are. We're real people.
Little did you know.
We're real
they're
people.
Actually like a human being behind that phone. So but again, thanks so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I would do this anytime.
Let's do it.
For sure.
Let's
definitely.
Because I want to get your opinion on everything that I'm doing, get your input on things. I think that would be one of the most helpful things in the world.
Yeah, and I think that we can both help each other out for sure.
For sure. All right, good shit, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Dope.
Peace.
Peace.